Well, welcome everybody back to the Flying Doghouse, day 2 of the 7 days, 1 aircraft, be a better pilot challenge. So in our first episode here, we talked about a number of things, right? So just to kind of recap, in case you're coming into video number 2 and you haven't watched video number 1, several of the things that we talked about in the earlier video was talking about personality quirks and energy management and power settings and trim and getting familiar with where things are in the cockpit and concentrating on flying one aircraft for 7 days consistently and reading the checklist, taking a look at the documentation just to get familiar, and then making sure that you can run the startup procedure for the aircraft without having really to refer to notes. It will get to be second nature. Speaking of checklists and notes, we have one sheet available for the Kodiak 100 over on our Ko-fi store. You set the price, so we'll kind of leave it at that. So if you're interested in that, go check out our Ko-fi store. Link is in the description on this video and is also included at the top of the channel in the links section. All right, so where are we going with day number 2? Day 2 of the challenge is seat time. So it's about flying the airplane. No autopilot, just you, the airplane, and the horizon. How about that? And use the fly someplace where that's fun for you. Use your home airfield. Use someplace that you find that's scenic and you're comfortable in operating an aircraft out of that particular airfield. But practice. Take a look at the documentation for the aircraft. Get familiar with your horsepower settings, your prop settings, your rotate speed, your landing speed, all those fun things. So just go up, have a fly, do a bunch of circuits. So to that end, I think we'll jump in the aircraft here and we will get going here from Kitty Hawk First Flight. So let's do that. And there we have it. And let's go ahead and have a look at our checklist that's available to you over on the Ko-fi store. Give you an idea of what we're up to here with these. Okay, so we're going to do cold and dark. And as a part of that, get this thing situated here. Okay, so fuel shutoffs need to come on. Fuel valve needs to be open. All right, so let's switch back over here. So we're going to follow this checklist. I'm not going to leave it up on the screen the whole time. Basically, we'll do a cold and dark, quickie check of the instruments. We'll get it powered up. We'll do our pre-engine and engine start. We'll situate ourselves for taxi. We'll talk about a few things there. And then we'll go have a fly and talk about getting more familiar with your aircraft. So I'm going to move this off of the screen. I think I can move this off of the screen. There we go. All right. So that should be good. Should be able to see what we're doing here. And again, we started the series with the Kodiak 100, so we're gonna continue with that. So in checking, quick scan here, our batteries are off, our avionics are off, our fuel selectors were off, but are now on because I turned them on. Our condition lever is in the appropriate place. It is. And our parking brake is set. Okay, so we'll go ahead and run through the startup sequence here. One of the rookie mistakes, I guess, is forgetting to cut the fuel valve on, especially if you're not used to following a checklist. So if you're new to that process, it's really having something to follow will come in handy, and that's why we built the ones we built. So at any rate, they are available to you over on Ko-fi. All right, so battery on. We're going to get our avionics master cut on here on the auxiliary bus. Get those fun things going. Get some light action going on outside so people will be aware that we're getting ready to start a propeller. That's always helpful for the ground crew. Okay, so throttle needs to be set to idle. Our prop needs to be full forward. Condition lever needs to be at cutoff, and it is. So that is all good and proper. And I cut on the strobe instead of the beacon. Okay, so there we go. So that part of the checklist is good. All right, so as we mentioned earlier, common mistakes with the Kodiak are being a little too quick to go to low idle. That will cause you problems and cause engine damage. Taxiing at high idle is not recommended. You're driving a race car on the ground at that point, so it's just much easier to maneuver on the ground if you have your idle set to low while you're on the ground, and it only needs to be on the ground. I think that's the other thing that people get confused with this aircraft. Okay, so we've got our fuel selectors on, but we will go ahead and verify that that is the case, and our fuel shutoff valve is in its proper location. We are next going to go ahead and get our fuel pump on. So we'll go ahead and cut that on. And we will engage the starter. Let that spin up for a minute. And ignition. And our fuel condition to low idle. So we should start seeing activity on our engine gauges coming up here. So that looks pretty good. And you can hear the prop pitch changing. Get good and stabilized here. And then we will go ahead and cut on our generator and our alternator. All right, so that gets our electrical to where it needs to be. And ignition can come off and starter can come off. Okay, those things are now good. So just, a basic overview of learning where things are in the cockpit so that you're not, scratching around, looking for stuff, right? So obviously our next steps then would be to go ahead and get our flight plan programmed in. We're just going to fly circuits, so I'm not going to mess with the electronics on this particular discussion. So there we go. We're just going to fly around Kitty Hawk and potentially Manio, which I think will work out just fine for us. Okay, so what else would you be doing? We're going to leave our barometric pressure set at 2992. If you contact the tower to get that information, then obviously you can set your barometric pressure accordingly. All right, so I'll just make a tweak. We'll pretend it's 30.01. How about that? And we'll roll the wheel around here and get that situated. going the wrong way. Read the screen. Here we go. I thought that was taking an awful long time. Here we go. We're almost there. Here we go. 30.001. All right, there we go. Altitude, if you wanted to set one, and I do have hardware controls that I'm going to be using to do some of this too. You can go ahead and get that dialed in. So if you have a target altitude that you want to emphasize, you can certainly do that. All right, we set that for 2,300 feet, so that's fine. All right, so I think we're pretty good now to go ahead and get going on our taxi, which would be helpful. Cut our cabin lights on here too. Learning where things are and not playing seek and find will be of great benefit to us. So let's jump outside the plane. All right, we'll zoom in here. Take our parking brake off. And we will slowly start our taxi over. Really need to go in and cut all that ground equipment and stuff off, but I haven't. Okay, so we'll make our taxi here. All right, we would be at this untowered airfield. We would be making a Unicom announcement that we are making our way onto the active with traffic, our call sign, our activity, and then our airfield again, just so that people are aligned with who's doing what where and might be in the vicinity. So let's jump back in the cockpit here. All right, so one trick is to move your throttle slightly away from the idle marker. You're also going to want to ensure that you have your fuel pump on. So that needs to be on. You also need to have your alternator and generator on as well. And you need to shift from low to high idle in a very smooth and deliberate fashion. So we'll see if we can get this to work. Sometimes it's a little fiddly, but again, you don't want to just, casually push it. It needs to be a steady push toward the stopper at the top of the console. So let's give that a shot. All right, engine RPM right now is at 1,200. So let's see if we're going to do this right. You should see here an upward pitch change, and we got that, so we did that correctly. But that will help you not wrestle around with that piece. It will bite you. So there you go. Okay, so we are no longer taxiing. Our taxi lights can come off. Landing lights can come on. And we're ready for departure. So in looking back at our checklist, we are looking to rotate somewhere between 65 and 70 knots. So that is what we will endeavor to do. The aircraft has a tall tail, right? And it does not really behave very well in terms of crosswind. So you're going to get pushed around. You're also going to find flying this plane, you're going to bounce around a lot too. But it's a lot of fun. Once you get a hold of it, it is extremely fun to fly, very gratifying experience. I think we're good. Let me just run one more quick check here. For takeoff power, you're going to want to slowly push the throttle forward. Being too aggressive with this will result in too much torque. That's not good. So we will endeavor to avoid that. Our flaps are currently not set correctly. We are at flaps 0. So we want to go to flaps 19. All right, so flaps are now good. All of our other items on the engine monitoring panel here look to be in good shape. I think we're rock solid here. All right, I think we're ready to depart. All right, let's go ahead and start our takeoff roll. Again, I'm going to be really smooth on pushing the torque up with our throttle. So we'll make our way, adding some power. If you are too aggressive, it will definitely go into the yellow. We'll give you a warning. All right, we're at 72, so we should go ahead and rotate. You are going to get pushed around by the wind. And I did push it too hard on purpose. You see what we've got going on with our torque. So we need to come back on that. Get that back down into normal range. And that will also give you a good experience and not damage the aircraft here. All right, so we're climbing out. We're going to get to probably about 1,000 feet, and then I'll wheel in the flaps from their takeoff position, and we'll start our turn. A little bit of an adjustment here. All right, let's go ahead and start our turn and roll those flaps in. The more you stick to one airframe, the more built-in muscle memory you'll give yourself. The aircraft, you won't just be an operator, right? You will be understanding the aircraft and being a pilot, not a passenger. If that makes any sense. All right, so we'll get a little bit more go-go juice here. And we'll get our airspeed up. And we're now about 2,000 feet, so that's good. What else would I say about the aircraft? It's you don't want to roll off throttle. You need to go in with your airspeed managed. Then you also need to make sure that you are doing that in a power-on condition, if that makes any sense, right? So you don't want to just chop the throttle, right, like you would in a smaller aircraft. This one, it wants to be powered into a solid landing configuration. Flaps are really, as required, right? For descent and prior to landing, you want your airspeed between 80 and 90 knots. We'll have our lights on. Absolutely no mucking around with the condition lever, right? That will lead to bad things. And then once you have, touchdown on the ground, then you can go to idle. The aircraft also does have, thrust reverse, right, that you can engage once your wheel's down, and that will get you into a good position. All right, so we'll just make our way over here toward Manio. Again, the other thing that I wanted to point out here with day 2 is, do some stall testing. Play around with how sensitive the aircraft is. Kick the rotors hard. Try some tight banking and turns. That way you'll have a better handle, if you will, on what the aircraft is actually doing. All right, I think for part 3 we're going to have we'll do a cross country flight, right? So we'll plan from point A to point B. We'll probably depart first flight, and we'll make our way down to Billy Mitchell Field, just past the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse on the Outer Banks. That'll be a long enough trip. We'll futz around with our GPS. We'll use some of the built-in navigational features in the Garmin, and we will take it from there. But I think one of the things that I wanted everybody to take away from this is it's really about seat time, folks, and being familiar with what the aircraft is capable of doing and eliminating that guesswork like we talked about in video number 1. All right, I think I'm going to leave it here. If you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe. We'd love to have you as a channel member. If you haven't watched the day 1 video, certainly do that. And we will be working on part 3. So I'm not sure how many segments we're going to do this. This is obviously a 7-day challenge, but I don't think we're going to do 7 videos. Then I also want to spend a little bit of time just talking about operating turboprops. So we'll do a video on that, and we'll incorporate it into this aircraft, and we'll probably feature some of the other things from Black Square as well. So we may jump over into the Turbo Bonanza and have a go at it. All right, if you haven't already done so as well, you can join us over on Discord, and we also have a weekly newsletter that we're doing and blog posting. So we are active over there, publishing content and hopefully adding some value to the community. And our checklists are also available over on our Ko-fi store. So the one that I featured here, the Kodiak 100, it's already out there. You set the price. If it's free, that's your choice. If you would like to support the channel in other ways, certainly you can make a donation as well. That is not required, but would be appreciated. Okay, with that, we are going to say goodbye for the evening. So, as always, folks, please keep well, be kind to each other, and until next time, cheers, y'all.